Welcome everybody to another episode of our Patreon for Gaming Gaiden. This time we're going to be having a sort of loose-ish discussion, well, pretty loose, about why we pick Japan, why we like Japan. Maybe at the end we can go into like why do others like Japan, why we think it's like it's only getting bigger seemingly, and what was it like to like Japan whenever we were younger. Things like that, but I think we'll start off with that first spark that brought us into the fold.
Yeah, this is a big topic. The thing is, it's really, in its most basic form, the big spark was art, in all its many forms. Now that's going across all different forms of entertainment. That's, movies, that's TV, that's video games, that's even traditional art like ukiyo-e. All these things just kind of added up over time, and when I was young I didn't know that all of these things were from Japan that I enjoyed, but when I got older and was able to start recognizing that, I was like, there's something here. Japan is the place that's giving me all this stuff that I'm really enjoying and appreciating. So it's art. The simplest way to say it is art, but it's all inclusive of all these different things. Movies, video games, print media, whatever it may be. It's always been there, and it still is.
So I think it was sort of a slow build up until it got to the breaking point for me, where I think I was already into the Karate Kid, and I knew I started to slowly figure out my video games were coming from Japan. Then, one fateful night, I catch maybe I want to say Demon City Shinjuku on the anime on the Sci-Fi Channel. And so they did this for several nights in a row, I think. And the anime kind of blew my mind. Like, if you go from watching Bugs Bunny and hell, even like American like X-Men and stuff like that.
I'm pretty sure American X-Men was Japanese animated.
Maybe, and especially the intro. I know Thundercats, the intro was Japanese, but like generally speaking, just the art and the movement, the animated camera movements, I think really caught my eye, and the detail and the gore. So like everything was so different about it. It just really, really blew my mind. Yeah. And then the second night was, Eight Man After, which no one's ever heard of generally, but I bought all these because I figured I might as well own the physical versions of the movies that changed my life.
It's a little blurred. Can you pull it back a little bit?
Yeah, I'm going to pull it back.
He's showing the cover of Eight Man After.
This is the cover of Eight Man After. This is the story of a guy that gets horribly injured as a cop and then is made into cyborg parts, and it's before RoboCop. So many think that either it's a case of parallel thought or the guys that made RoboCop copied this and have been hiding it. But I honestly think that they thought of it separately.
I was going to say, honestly, that seems like everybody shared that parallel thought in the era.
Cops get injured on duty, right? And then you want to have a sci-fi cop, and robots are cool, so it makes sense. Yeah. And there were a few others, I think. Ghost in the Shell might have been part of this. I think I saw Akira later on. I don't think that was part of the Sci-Fi Channel thing. So there was a moment of like, must have been 4 years if I trace it. I'm just guesstimating, but apparently, and one of the guitarists from U2 has a hand in this. Actually, there was a moment in the '90s where they weren't marketing Dragon Warrior, they weren't marketing Speed Racer, they weren't marketing Pokemon just yet. It was those bloody cartoons from the Far East. that's essentially, that was the message. It was like, this ain't no Flintstones kind of thing, right? And that is what got me into it. That's what pulled me in. And then all of a sudden I'm like, fuck, Mr. Miyagi's Japanese, karate's Japanese, fucking Sega and Nintendo are Japanese, Ninja are Japanese. Yeah. Like, it was like kind of a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Like, kind of, definitely. I figured all at once. And like, then I started, like, through anime and stuff. Mike, did you ever kind of figure out, like, you liked the Japanese culture as well? You liked their discipline or whatever?
No question. It's funny because for me, the first time that I was aware of Japan as part of the arts that I was enjoying was really through Godzilla. So it's like we got all these other things that were imports, like Speed Racer or Voltron, even Thundercats. But like none of those things were like, hey, this is Japanese or this is in Japan, because they weren't necessarily set in Japan or anything like that. Yeah. Even this is something we discussed, when we touched upon like Big Trouble in Little China, in discussing Mortal Kombat, was this sort of idea of the Pan-Asian idea, right? Like we didn't really know specifically where things were from. But Godzilla was in Tokyo. Like that was clear. So like I knew Japan as the setting of Godzilla movies. Like that was my first real, this is Japan. Godzilla is from Japan. But it wasn't until many years later that I started piecing everything together. And like I knew, I like this kind of sense of discipline and honor that's coming from these samurai movies. But like they were all dubbed, I guess, at the time. And I didn't really know what it meant. Like what did it mean for it to be Japan versus China or Korea? Like I didn't know at the time. But I did know what was appealing to me. And it wasn't until, around the high school years that I just was like, this has all come together now. I understand what's happening here.
So it's high school.
Yeah, and that's because it's where, I grew up in New York City, and a lot of times, people regard New York City as a very cosmopolitan place, but it's not. It's not for everybody. A lot of that is kind of predicated on having money.
That's Manhattan.
Right? If you don't have money, what does it matter? You're going to still be in your little neighborhood. And I happen to also live on an island within the Bronx in New York City. So like it's a subculture within a subculture, and we don't really have a strong sense of what's beyond, So yeah, I didn't really know until I went to high school what the different countries were, what it really meant. Like it was all so abstract to me. And that's because when I went to high school, I met people from these different countries. I went to a boarding school and there were a lot of international students, and I met students in my class who were from Korea and Japan and all that. And it was just like, okay, all right. Yeah. Right. No, I'm interested in this. So, okay. Taekwondo is from Korea. Oh man, that's cool. I see. And so karate is karate. That's actually from Japan. Right. And like it just all starts to piece together. You start to learn, because for me it was like, all right, I'm in the Bronx. I'm on my little island. Most folks are Catholic. A lot of Irish and Italian, mostly blue collar folks. There were plenty of academics and stuff on the island too, as I learned later on, some famous folks. But like, we didn't know any of that growing up. I didn't. So yeah, it was high school where I started to meet people from different countries. Where like, even in New York, where there's people from all over the world, it doesn't necessarily mean they're in your neighborhood. It doesn't mean you're going to be exposed to them.
So that's a good point, and that relates to me because I definitely got into Japan. Again, if you've been following me, you know the story, but like I moved from Alabama, a town called Eclectic, which is far from it, in 98 to a town called Griffin, Georgia, which was a lot more of an actual town, but still by anybody's reckoning, this is a small town.
Yeah.
But we went from extreme country to I hesitate to even say suburb because that implies it's close to a city. Like we're still like a good 50 to an hour away from Atlanta in Griffin. So it's a town. It's a small town. So, and I got into Japanese stuff on my own, thanks to the Sci-Fi Channel, I guess, in Alabama for sure. And I was importing PS1 games in Alabama before we moved. So definitely before 98. I imported a Dreamcast, Sonic Adventure, Shenmue. Before that, Toe Ball number 2, maybe something else on PS1. But like when I started it, I fell really headlong into it. But
let me ask you about this though, because this goes back to what I was saying about money, right? Like I didn't have any money, and when I went to high school, we had jobs for the school. It was called like a work co-op, basically, but you weren't paid for them. It was like part of like the scholarship deal and stuff. So everybody did them, not just scholarship students, but it was like to offset scholarships or whatever. So I didn't have any money of my own that didn't come from either the occasional summer work here and there or birthday, Christmas. And, by the time I was 13, like nobody was really giving me anything anymore. So, So were you working through those years to pay for these imports? Like, I'm not sure. How old were you?
Okay. So I'll go line by line. Toe Ball number 2 was probably a birthday gift or a Christmas gift. So that's like, it must have been $70 maybe after importing, maybe under 100. And then with the Dreamcast, this is a very specific scenario here. This was at the time when we were about to move, and they had sold, or they were about to at least, to sell the house. Parents were up on some money. So they were like, hey, since we're moving and we've sold the house, we'll get you a gift that is a little more than usual. And of course I picked the Dreamcast, the Japanese one. Are you kidding me? So and it came out months in advance. I had it way before anybody else did. Wow. No one even knew what I fucking had when they came over to my house. And so that's what happened with that. And if it was not jobs. I mean, I had jobs when I was 16, but anytime before that, I don't think I worked when I was 15. No. I didn't have a car, and you need one in that area. So, but anyway, it was either birthdays or Christmas or that special scenario with the house. Yeah. But what I was trying to get to too was talking about like how you perceive the world. I think growing up, I mean, in Alabama, there were black people and white people. There was one Mexican-American guy, Hispanic, Latino guy, Mickey. I'm not going to say his full name, but I remember his full name, Mickey E. And that was like the only guy at the time. It was not a mixed culture, dude, at all, really.
So what about, you say white and black, but like what about within those cultures? Did you have any perception? Because like I say, in New York, there's a very strong sense of like Italian, Irish, Albanian. No. Right? These are all white or even Jewish, which is religious, but also has some ethnic history to it.
So we talked about this with Blaustein a little bit too. It's not a thing, man. Like people don't know where they come from half the time or more than half the time in the South. This whole like, I'm Irish, I'm German, I'm New York Italian. Like that's something that we learn about watching movies on New York. Like white people in the South, they're just totally disconnected from everything they came from in Europe. Complete and utter disconnect. That being said, some people, it does seem like most of the people are either British, Irish, or Scottish. There's hardly any like, I think technically, what's the right wording here? basically most people are that. I'm that as well. And there's hardly ever any talk about it. Even though they're from there, that no one ever talks about it. It's not a thing. It's just.
But it's funny because you say like the big global tastemaker for the much of the time leading up to that was America, right? American music was making the rounds. American movies were making the rounds, and it's still obviously America is still a player, but Japan has a broader appeal. And of course, you could argue that has something to do with the fact that also, they don't have a military to to make things seem unpalatable when, say, like, okay, because this government is doing this thing, invading another country and trying to take their resources, now we don't really want to engage with their art. That's not really going to happen to Japan unless something changes about the Constitution, because their military is America, who has to come in and defend, because that was the agreement following World War II.
Can you imagine having bases of another country in your country? Like, that was kind of a weird feeling living there. Like, you could go to the base and you're technically in America. If you have a baby on that base, it's American soil.
Yeah. It's definitely a weird thing, but like it's kind of the thing that you have to promise the people. And that's right. All these things are arbitrary, right? Like, borders aren't real. We decide where they are, right?
Yeah.
So if you say, okay, I'm going to take all these, 18-year-old people who have decided to join the military, but I'm going to place them all around the world. You can't just put them in these other places in the world and say like, okay, well, you no longer have all of your rights due as an American citizen because you're in this other country. You have to just say like, yeah, we're going to give you that. We're going to give you, you're going to be an American. And if you have kids here, they're going to be American too. It's cool. Technically, it's not actually America, but like, we can make that work, because otherwise, why would we be willing to send you over there to either kill people or die if we weren't going to do something right by you, at least in the smallest way? So, yeah, it's all kind of crazy stuff, isn't it? Sorry, I'm getting a little off track here.
No, that's okay. So, that's fine. So, when you got into Japanese stuff, did people know that you were like, oh, that guy's into Japan, or did you hide it, or what was the overall vibe of the Japan scene?
So like, this is the thing, right? Like, growing up, almost everybody was into the same things. Like, I was more into Godzilla than maybe some of my friends, because my father liked the movies. My father and I used to watch them. They would show up on, I think it was WPIX, which, for anyone in the New York area, that's a well-known channel. And they used to have, it was on channel 11, and they used to use the Twin Towers as the two ones in it and all that. So it was like, it was a fixture for us. And they did the WPIX Sunday movie, and it was often Godzilla. And I would go play Godzilla with my father, and like, he'd be like, who do you want to be, Mikey? And I'd be like, well, Godzilla. I'm Godzilla. And he's like, all right, I'm Mothra, or whoever it was,
Right.
And so we would like wrestle around and all that stuff while it was on the TV. And this is, in the days when you changed the knob, you didn't have a remote. So I was the remote. But like, so I had that early on. That was mainly with my father. And all my friends knew who Godzilla was, but maybe I was more into that than others. But when it came to things like Voltron, everybody loved Voltron. Didn't know that was Japanese. We all loved it. We all put them together. We combined our cats to make like the massive thing. And it was like, all right, wait, who had number 3? Who's got the yellow one? Oh, here you go. Take that back. We got to go home now. Thundercats, whatever it was. What else do we have? There wasn't, I'm not sure. Those were like the big ones on TV. And then, we all played video games, and everybody knew Nintendo was Japanese, because you did have a lot of weird sentiment in America at the time, because there was this conflicted sense of like Japan becoming a strong economic power, really on the rise. And there was a lot of that like D&D kind of nonsense with like, what is Nintendo doing to our children? And I was Nintendo? Psh, what about Sega, man? No love?
Right.
But yeah, so you always had a sense of it, and all my friends enjoyed it. So there was never any special issue regarding it. Like, there was never any outsider, because all my friends liked it. and we rented movies, that were anime. I can't remember what year it was, but like we got Ninja Scroll eventually. We had Fist of the North Star, Vampire Hunter D. There was another one called The Guyver that I think most folks didn't really bother with, but eventually got made into a live action movie with Mark Hamill.
2 movies. It was received pretty well.
Yeah. So like, it was all there and all my friends liked it. So there's plenty of support, but we didn't know really. Yeah, nice.
Showing up a Ninja Scroll really, Blu-ray.
Until those high school years hit. And in those high school years, that's when things really started blowing up. So there was always, like at my high school, because it was a pretty international scene, like there was never any sense of being outside with much of anything really. Like what you were into, whatever you were into, nobody was really looking to crap on you for it. My high school just wasn't like that. It was a small private Quaker school and people were pretty supportive, pretty chill, pretty accepting. And of course, like I said, it was a pretty international school. So like, oh, you're into Japanese stuff. Why don't you go check out the Pacific Rim organization meeting where like all these people come together, And it was, yeah, lots of support, really.
I really felt like I was like a total pioneer in my hometown. I mean, there was probably other people, maybe different ages, but like we're talking mid 90s, right? In a really rural town, dude, very rural. And I remember, so I would draw, I liked getting my EGM probably usually EGM and getting tracing paper, like, and just tracing the characters. I thought that was fun. And then I would try to draw some myself, just by copying though. I would copy the drawing. I didn't do a whole lot of like completely original, like freehand shit, but
no.
I could copy okay. And I remember drawing like this like anime, like fairy looking character or something. And this teacher, this could be in a movie. He was like one of those like gruff, like fucking, you call them good old boys in the South, like really country motherfuckers. Probably says the N word as soon as he leaves school. He was a teacher. I don't remember him being a great guy, but anyway, I just remember his absolutely fucking bewildered look. He was like, he had absolutely no fucking idea. I could have been drawing like, I don't know, he would have recognized an alien, but he just didn't recognize this. And I remember that. And I remember like, I felt like I brought it to all my friends. So like, and I was like the main person that knew about this stuff and would like I don't know how I figured it out. Just I guess from EGM and early internet or something. But yeah. And I remember playing the Street Fighter animated movie. You've seen that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a big one too growing up. And like we played it in school. Like, like near the end of class, the teacher's done, they let us play shit. So we played it on the VHS there, and people were like, mostly not paying attention to it. But then one guy was like, the only cartoon I've seen where they cuss is The Simpsons, I remember that. And like, it just felt like people didn't like hate me for it. They didn't call me a fucking dweeb or whatever. No one even knew what the word otaku was.
Right.
But it was like, I'm the only one that kind of knows about this stuff. I have people to share it with maybe sometimes. My best friend growing up, he liked it too whenever we did watch it, but I don't think he saw it on his own too much. So I did feel alone in a sense, but I don't know. It's just like, well, this is my shit, so whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I had, this is my senior year, actually. I was a prefect. For the sophomore guys. And there was this one guy from Korea who wanted to be an animator. And so he had all these books. And I think this was before Evangelion made its way to America. But he had all these books, like something, it was a new type thing. And they were like art books of Evangelion. And I would do my rounds sometimes. I'd be studying or whatever for a test. And I'd do a quick round at like 2 a.m. because I'd be up late all the time anyway. That's how I was. And I would catch his lights on and be like, man, he's at it again. And I'd go and knock on the door and be like, yo, come on, man. Lights out was at 11. You know you got to get some sleep, you know? This is Mr. Prefect over here.
Prefect is what now? Like a
prefect is like, so in this case, right, we're in a dormitory.
Yeah.
So on the hall, there were, so mine was pretty small. We had like 20 guys, say, something like that. They were all sophomores, and I was a senior along with my roommate, who was also a senior. And we were kind of like the bosses of that floor. So we were the ones who made sure that everyone was putting their lights out at 11 o'clock. We were the ones making sure everything was getting done. We were also the ones that made sure that someone was taken care of when they came to us at 3 a.m. with the shakes from cigarette withdrawal, you know?
Were you smoking then?
No, I didn't smoke.
Okay.
But like, you know, that's an incident that happened. Like, got woken up one night and it's like, yo, what's going on, man? You're cold and you're shaking. What's going on? And he was like, you know, because we can't smoke on the campus as, you know, high schoolers. He's like, I think I'm having withdrawal from cigarettes. And it's like, So, you know, you take them over to like the nurses center or whatever. But yeah, like it's that kind of thing. You got a lot of responsibility, but it's also just kind of fun. And you get to hang out. And like my hall was almost entirely international. We only had, I think, like 3 guys from America on that hall. And the rest were all from different countries: Indonesia, Taiwan, South Korea, Mexico, Denmark. It was a lot represented.
Nice.
So there was one guy who wanted to be an animator. And like, I used to go and check out his stuff all the time because I was just like, this is so good. But like, you gotta get some sleep, man. You can't be doing this at 2 a.m. every night because you're going to fail your classes if you do this.
I think speaking of animation, everybody brings up like the different style, which yes, that is a big part of it. We all love that anime style, especially I think for us, maybe the 90s anime style is the most nostalgic.
Yeah.
That Evangelion and all that. But it's not, to me, if I think back on it, it was that plus the movement. Again, I really keyed in on that. Like, American animation had a very static camera because it must be hard as all hell to have a camera move simulated in traditional animation. Are you kidding me? But the Japanese did that, and they did that during fight scenes and just really crazy shit during the Sakuga sections, especially. Yeah. I mean, so, like, for some reason, that just, like, God, that really like set me off, dude. I thought that was just incredible. That was
the animation
one of the
techniques were really impressive. They really did blow me away. Like, it was just, the other thing though is, right, like, in order to do these things, in order to have these cool fight scenes and these weird ultra violent scenes, right, that like we weren't getting them elsewhere. American animation wasn't really doing that very much. It was very rare that you found something like that. The occasional Ralph Bakshi, right? The occasional heavy metal video, right?
That was just all. The thing is, that was all kind of over by the time I was coming online.
Right, and it wasn't even contemporary in the 90s.
Yeah.
So like, it was just, you were digging up this old stuff and be like, hey, this is kind of cool, man. But the big thing is, the content. Like, in Japanese animation, you were finding content that was geared towards roughly teenagers, like 17 or whatever, you know, the seinen or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's not for the 10-year-olds. It's not for the 12-year-olds or the 7-year-olds. Like most of American animation was geared towards. It was definitely a little more mature. You know, there was slightly risque scenes with sexual content. There was violence, you know. Some of those things that, you know, you think are mature when you're in the process of maturing that you really want to see.
Oh, yeah. And God, dude, I feel like I was around 12 or so. And that that was like the perfect age also. It was just the stars had aligned, dude. And given my personality, it would have happened eventually at some point anyway, I guess. But it definitely just happened then. I have to give credit to the Sci-Fi Channel with anime. And then after that, I started to kind of notice it with video games. Like, oh, this Japanese video game. Well, most of them are Japanese to begin with, but at this time. But this game is like a lot better than this other American game. That American game sucked. This Japanese cover is better, stuff like that. And then EGM also was bringing up Japan a lot. So that was also a factor. So it's like a 1-2 punch, man. And then like Bloodsport wasn't in Japan, but it was also like, wow, Asia's awesome. You know what I mean?
Right. So we were getting plenty of movies in America that like used the Pan-Asian thing, right? Like a setting or characterizations that were just like drawing from different spots, throughout Asia, to be like, here's your sort of generic mishmash martial arts thing, and Bloodsport is like the best. Bloodsport is your real Street Fighter movie. That's the
Street Fighters. They've said it's based on Bloodsport.
Like that's it. That's what works. And like your characters are all stereotypes more or less, or caricatures from around the world. And that's why it resonates so well. That movie was fantastic. I was also watching movies like American Ninja. Was his name Michael Dudikoff or whatever?
I missed this whole thing. That's a big fucking set of movies in that time period
My friends and I would have these stupid arguments, be like, no, man, yellow ninjas are stronger than the black outfits. The red ninjas, that means like, that's like the highest level.
I gotta see these movies, dude.
Ridiculous stuff. Yeah. And we all loved that. So yeah, Japan was really... through the arts that we ended up knowing did come from Japan. I feel like Japan was really filling in its own niche there. It was providing stuff that American media was not. And I think that's what really made it resonate with us. And that carried us through the years, And of course,
they showed us the way, dude, in many ways.
There was just so much stuff that was like, hey, this is really cool. I'm not getting anything like this domestically. Let me see what you got. Show me more. And when I was getting into anime, we didn't call it anime. It was called Japanimation. That was the term we were using as a standard at the time. I don't remember when I learned the term anime, but yeah, Japanimation is what I called it for a while. And I can still remember I think I was a sophomore, and my friend was a little bit older, but still in the same grade. And he hit 17. So I was like, yo, you got your ID? And we went to the flea market to buy Urotsuki Doji, Legend of the Overfiend, which is like the famous tentacle porn thing, because it was NC-17.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't buy it. I won't be able to buy it for years. I was a senior when I was 17. I actually graduated from high school at 17. So
I did too.
It took a while before I got the chance to legally buy that.
Yeah.
Which I didn't, because at that time then I knew. But yeah, I remember going to check that out, and it was like just this weird random VHS up on the top, and I was like, that's NC-17. Dude, we got to see that. We got to get that. And we went back there. We went to that flea market and got it.
I think that's for us.
We watched it in, like the basement of the dorm or whatever, because they just always had a TV and a VCR. And sometimes we'd be like, yo, I think someone's coming. All right, turn it off. Oh, no, it's cool, man. It's just Joe. It's cool. Come check this out, man. Check this out. This
Joe,
is some
check
crazy
this shit
stuff.
out. It's from Japan.
So, yeah.
There was a time where, especially when you imported something, kind of pre-eBay, dude, God, I was doing this so early looking back. It was like, especially like getting Tobal 2 or the Dreamcast or whatever, it was like getting a trinket from heaven itself. It was so foreign. It was just a video game, but still, it was just so foreign and so, like, you just didn't get this kind of shit ever, man. It was just coming from like that small town Alabama and then Georgia and all that. It was just like God, it felt so special. I loved it.
Yeah,
and
it really did. I agree. Like, I had friends who were from Japan, and then they'd go home for their winter breaks or whatever, and I would be like, could you bring me back a little something? Anything.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah.
matter. Could be anything. Just a piece of candy. I don't really care.
Right.
And like
Candy-
any
candy's a
little
big
thing,
one.
I'd be like, oh, this candy's so good. Or, oh my God, look at this stationery. Why is this like the coolest color combination I've ever seen? Why is this so pretty? I'm never going to use this.
Oh, right.
But it's awesome.
So Matt Alt has said before in another podcast, not ours, where he thinks that you can really credit Japan's success to their good storytellers.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be for adults, a gory shit or whatever. But as we all know, very good storytellers and just making products for kids. Look how popular, look how crazy good they've been at that, selling their culture that way. That's probably why they took over France and the Francophiles, is because France wasn't making shit for kids. They were known for wine. But Japan has like ninjas and fucking comic books and video games, you know what I mean? And I don't know, just something about Japanese culture. They are kind of always ahead of the curve, man. Like whatever happens in Japan happens to the rest of the world a little after them. It seems like in a lot of ways.
It's definitely looking that way.
Right?
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, some things stay in Japan,
this.
but like right now, and Matt Alt's brought this up again on his Twitter, as of the recording of this podcast, McDonald's has announced that they will have adult Happy Meals this fall. And this is a whole thing in line with kidults. Kid adults is a new word called kidults. And I feel like, again, this is kind of part of the Japanification of the world or something, because whether you think this is good or bad or whatever, let's leave that to the side for the moment. Japan obviously has done this first. Like they had a whole adult toy, not sex toys, but adult toys market, and a manga for adults, and like we've said, video games for adults, kind of, sort of first. And now look at us. Look at what McDonald's doing, man. You know?
Well, I think that. So I followed a couple of Sega focused accounts for a while on Twitter, and I could see them going like gaga over the Sonic Happy Meal toys and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, my walls look really bare here for the most part. I do have some stuff on the other wall that you can't see, but like I'm not driven by toys or tchotchkes. It's just, I love them, but I don't care. I just don't care. But I would see these people posting photos and talking about like, oh, the Canadian version is slightly different. If you can get a hold of that, you can go into a McDonald's and ask them for this toy, that toy. And I'm like, why don't you just let the kids have them, man? Like I take a very different approach to that. So it's weird to see. And maybe this is the thing McDonald's started to see, because at all their locations, maybe they were getting more and more adults coming in and be like, yeah, I want to get, I'm looking to get the Knuckles figure. Can I get that? Thank you. Right. So like, why not just hit that market directly? Why make them come in for the stuff that we've aimed at the kids? Why don't we make stuff for them? It's kind of like, it's an obvious marketing decision. If the kidults are here and they're out there making themselves known, somebody's going to sell to them.
Definitely. And like, if you, like my dad was not buying any shit like that. And I don't think Gen X, I think you're almost Gen X.
I am Gen X,
Mike.
yeah.
You are Gen X.
Yeah.
Okay. For the most part, Gen X was not buying that kind of shit. Not video games, not cartoons, nothing for the longest time.
No.
Maybe Gen X a little bit now. But like,
well, it's money too,
But I'm talking about culture though too. Like people would, if you said you watched like Batman cartoon back in the day, being over 20, hell, being over in your 20s maybe, let alone 30s and 40s like we are now, like people would have looked at you weird. But now the culture has shifted to where you could watch all that shit and no one would give a fuck. Maybe they would, if you watch, only the thing I can think of is if it was like for toddlers, like Barney or something. But but if it's like for kids, like if it's like Batman or whatever, people are like, all right, sure, whatever. You know what I mean? Or any kind of anime. And Japan, the point is, Japan's been like that. Now we've become like that. So again, they've been just ahead of the curve every time.
Yeah. I'll tell you though, like the collectors have always been there. And so my my wife's mother deals in used goods. She does like antiques, she does furniture restoration and stuff. And she said that she used to buy a lot of Dick Tracy stuff whenever she could because she knew it would sell. And so like what she's noticed in her many years of doing this is that like it follows the age group. So now if she were to buy $100 worth of Dick Tracy stuff in 2 weeks, she'd have $100 worth of Dick Tracy stuff sitting on the shelf. Because that age group is not out there looking to buy this stuff, looking to recapture their youth or in any way. So like it's always been there. It's just, it was never really at the forefront of the culture. And now, so like my age group is generally at a good level of earnings with the careers, right? And generally these are like the big earning years to start getting prepped for retirement, which is not really going to happen for most people because the economy is shot to hell.
Right.
They are now looking back and saying, hey, I'd like these things. And now what has happened to the retro game market? The prices have gone through the roof.
Yeah, COVID blew that up as well, I think.
Well, that's the thing, right? So like these people are at home. They're looking for other things to do. They have money. They're looking to recapture those Dick Tracy moments from their childhood. What captured my imagination when I was a child? In our case, it's video games.
Mm-hmm.
And so the retro market exploded.
That's why we made this Patreon to get that Neo Geo CD. Z.
And I want that Mr. FPGA so badly.
This was not a ploy to bring us to that point, but yeah.
So I can play my Japanese games. I want to play the original versions in Japanese. I want to play the American versions to see how they compare. Like, you know, like I love that kind of thing. I love being able to go back and forth and look at the different versions. That's really cool.
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like it's crazy. Like this truly is who I am. Like the kid that was reading this, the EGM in '94. I mean, look at my room, man. I'm 38. Like this is like, I feel like I'm that kid's dream. Like I feel like I made it, you know, in a lot of ways. And I just, I haven't changed a whole lot. I mean, of course, some I've matured, but I don't know. My core being is still there. I am still that 12-year-old man watching that Sci-Fi Channel, dude.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I was talking with my wife the other day, and I actually recently picked up a whole bunch of video games from somebody nearby. I posted on like the community board saying like, hey, you know, I'm interested in getting some older game systems. If anybody's looking to get rid of stuff, I have a nice little CRT TV. I'd like to play some games on it. I thought maybe I'd get like a Wii or something, you know, because I can mod it to play a bunch of stuff. But some guy came on and he was like, hey, I'll sell you basically the whole run of Nintendo through the Wii, the hardware. And I was like, that's way more than I want to buy, but I also got to go for this. So I went for it. Right now in the other room, there's an NES sitting out, taken apart because I'm waiting to get a replacement 72-pin connector to plug in the NES because it's a piece of crap hardware. It's terrible. It's junk hardware. We should have had top loaders at the very least. And in that though, when he sold me the stuff, he was like, well, I have the games here. And I was like, I can't buy the games. I don't have enough money to be throwing at all this stuff. I was thinking to spend like $30 on.
So you got NES, SNES, N64, GameCube, and Wii, but not Wii U.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So I got that full run. And then the thing is, he was like, no, you take the games with it. And I was like, oh, the games are included in the price. Okay. So like, I'm not even going to ask at this point. I'm like, I'm not asking what he has in there. I'm just like, that's cool. I'll take it. You know, even though I see like it's all Nintendo, I'm thinking, oh, he's got like maybe some Maddens or Desert Strike or something like that, you know? But I went through there and I was looking at these games like, what the hell? This is amazing. This is an amazing library. And one of the games was Chrono Trigger.
Oh, shit.
And I was just like beside myself with joy because I never thought that I'd own a Super Nintendo version of Chrono Trigger. It's too expensive. It's too rare. It's too tough to come by, you know. even in
How
bad
much do they
condition.
go for loose?
Generally, like
with a
150 to
box, but not
200 for loose.
300?
Just loose. No, 150 to 200 generally loose on eBay. No box, nothing.
I've got the Japanese version in the box, not the whole plastic, but I've got the box and the cartridge.
Well, see, this is why it's good to learn Japanese. The Japanese version you can get for like $30.
Yeah, right.
The North America version is extremely rare. But it was there, and my wife was like, well, why don't you just sell that and you'll get all the money back and then some? And I was like, what? That's not how that works.
I need to have this game.
She was like, yeah, if it's worth that much money, you've played it, right? You have it on the DS, you have it on this. And I'm like, and I was like, basically I said to her, this is worth more than money. I can make more money, but I can't make more copies of Chrono Trigger. I don't want to get rid of this and then try to replace it later for $300-$400. The fact that this fell into my lap while I was trying to buy just a Wii is like, that's really nice that happened. But that's it, right? Like this is who I am. I love this stuff. Yeah. There's no greater motivating force for me than video games. And Japan was providing all those video games for all those years. And man, when that chance came up in my senior year of college to go check out for Jet, I was like, I'm on it. I'm definitely trying for this. And I got waitlisted and I got on. And that's it. And once I got on, it's been a lifelong love affair, you know?
That's true. That's when this is going to be another episode probably, like our first impressions. This is another episode for maybe next season, man. our impressions when we first got to Japan for the first time, loss of delusionment and stuff like that. We'll save that for later. But these arts, all of it culminated really from video games being the main thing. I have to explain to people too, especially people that are younger. Anime kicked it into a high gear, I guess you could say, for me. Mm-hmm. But I still say video games, after learning that video games were also made in Japan, I spent more time playing video games than watching anime.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more. So anime helped to fill it out and helped me to kind of see, like, there's anime style in this video game. So I can kind of start to piece everything together, thankfully, thanks to anime. But yeah, I tell people it wasn't Dragon Ball. It wasn't anime at all. It was video games. And that kind of blows some people's minds because I'll tell them, like, I've never seen, like, I don't know, some classic anime or something. And they'll be like, what? Like, I was too old for Pokemon when it came out, the anime. So it was just like.
Yeah, Pokemon was definitely not for me.
Yeah, so, like.
I wasn't going to do anything with that.
Yeah, that blows some people's minds. And it's just like, no, it was just video games, man. That's it.
But I regard Pokemon as like the big shift to the full mainstream approach of anime and Japanese games. It was just like this massive global juggernaut. And it's like, okay, all the kids like this stuff. That's it, man. And they're all going to grow up with it. And then that's it. Everything's settled.
Other than Marvel movies, you can't name a single fucking recent thing that what are the kids doing on the playgrounds these days? And they say that, like, kids for the most part are not buying American comics. When they buy comics, it's manga translated. Because Japan just knows how to make an original idea that kids can sink their teeth into, and they just know what's cool. And I don't know why it's so fucking elusive to a lot of people in America. It's like, it's so fucking obvious to me.
I do think, this is something to discuss, I guess, for another episode, right? Of the comic book industry, right? Where there's this, most of those books, they appear weekly. So people are buying them in the weekly cheap collections, and they get a whole bunch of stories in one go. They're getting a cohesive story that has a complete storyline and an ending. But with American comics, the stuff that's generally aimed at younger audiences, the superhero stories and all, they're just kind of a weird mishmash. And you buy issue 722 of Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man. I don't even know what we're on. This is just random
Oh, yeah,
stuff.
you get lost so
It's
easily.
like, okay, well, where am I? Oh, I need 4 issues to go, but each issue is $4. And like, I can only get that Spider-Man story. I'm not going to get a little bit of the Hulk. I'm not going to get a little bit of, Dr. Doom's weird hero turn or something, but like in Japan, you get that Shonen Jump big fat catalog of like 10 different stories.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's probably a big part of it, yeah.
And they're creator owned. So it's just a completely different thing, It just works so differently. And it's funny because we have things like Image Comics, but Image Comics ends up generally skewing to an older audience.
Yeah, they're making new stuff, but it's just like it just feels like in America we were doing it in the 80s. We had new properties all the time. Like you had Transformers, Thundercats, He-Man, Ninja Turtles comes out in like 88, 89. And then, we take from Japan for Power Rangers. X-Men comes from comics. But like it was just like a bunch of shit, very popular, bunch of phases, but still it was like it felt like the kids were into it. And I don't know, it just feels different now. Like kids, maybe they're playing as like the Marvel characters on the playground or something, but it's just,
I don't know.
Fortnite characters or something, but it's just a different thing entirely now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is with things like Fortnite and Smash Brothers taking that sort of multiverse approach. Like it's like, okay, it's good. It's fun. Just go ahead and play with it. Have your fun. But also in a way, I feel like it kind of compromises the integrity of each story. Like there is no story that you can just go and straight up enjoy because
just a big mishmash.
I don't know. Everything's a crossover or whatever.
Right.
But to get back on to the main storyline, right, of like why Japan?
Yeah.
It really is these arts, all of these different arts. But for me, that number one is video gaming.
Yeah, their artistic approach, the art used in their games, the way it'll play, which maybe is an art, the way it controls, things like that. I agree. Yeah, it's a combination of the anime, the games, the comics, but also pleasantly different as well. Everything's so different, but it's just like, why don't we do it like that? Because they're right. That's how I thought. They're right. We're wrong. I thought that a lot growing up. And that's why I got in Japan, because I wanted to be on, it's like almost kind of like subconsciously I wanted to be on the team that was doing things right. Like
I never saw it as right or wrong. I just always thought, I like this. This is cool.
As far no, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's not the right terminology, but like, let's say like their art is better, is what I was thinking. Their art is better. Look at these aspects of their culture, so disciplined. I over romanticize the East for sure. I even believed in like chi and shit, when I was a kid. I thought the Force was like the American version of chi, which I think it kind of is. And I thought, you know what I mean? I thought I was impressionable youth, dude. So like, we're talking like before 12 years old and shit. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, like, I don't know what my path would have been had I not gotten the chance to meet people from Japan. If I had stayed, in my neighborhood in the Bronx and I never met someone from Japan, would I have been more inclined to romanticize things? Because even though I knew people, I still had the inclination to romanticize Japan in its own way. And then living there changed that. Made it very real to me.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And like, it's funny because now, rather than romanticizing it, I appreciate the things that I think were done very well there that I wish we could have in America.
That's the thing. Especially when you live there, you start to realize they don't do everything better, but there's still a lot of what I was thinking about Japan holds up in reality also at the same time, which is kind of an amazing achievement in and of itself.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that'll do it. Thank you guys for joining us behind the paywall here on the Patreon. And let us know what you thought. If you thought we didn't answer the exact question, or you want us to answer something a little bit more specific about why Japan, let us know in the comments, things like that.
This is definitely an infinite open question, you know? An ongoing discussion.
Exactly. So, let us know what you think, and I guess that's it. We'll check you later.
All right. Thank you all.